and how it counts against one's deductible is a major frustration. Is not only is a frustration for me, but it's also a frustration, I think, for many, many Americans on a bipartisan basis. Many members of this committee even have had struggles with this.
Older Americans have no retirement savings, and almost 50% of our nation's seniors are trying to survive on an income of less than $25,000 a year. Our job is not to cut Social Security, and it is likely the bill will be opposed by Republicans that control the House of Representatives. Without their crucial support, the bill would not be able to be passed at present, and Republicans have said that they would not cut Social Security, though not everyone believes it. The support offered by the programs is crucial for millions of Americans to live, and according to this press release from the Senator Sanders, nearly 40% of seniors on Social Security rely on it for a majority of their income, and 1 in 7 rely on it for more than 90% of their income. Nearly half of Americans ages 55 and older have no retirement savings at all, and one of the biggest issues is how the plan will be funded. Worries persist that without the further funding, that by 2035, Social Security will no longer be able to claim their full benefit. In March, the Social Security Board of Trustees released their annual report on the financial status of the Social Security trust funds. According to the report, cash for the Social Security program will run out in 2025, and that's just in a couple years' time. If more funds are not directed to the program, there will be big problems. The next payment for SSI is May 1st. You should have received Social Security on April 3rd and SSI on April 1st if you began receiving it in May 1997. Now, inflation's grips on businesses is actually loosened greatly in March, and you should have received Social Security, everybody, many times. But now, folks, the U.S. government said plunging energy prices pulled the producer price index down 0.5% in March from February. It marks the biggest decrease in producer prices in 3 years and follows the reports showing easing inflation on broader consumer prices. Producer prices, also known as wholesale costs, track prices in the production process before they reach the consumer. As a result, the producer price index can nearly provide early insight of where inflation is headed. And lower prices paid by businesses on materials and other items means they are less likely to raise prices in the months ahead. Plus, businesses have spent much of 2022 raising prices on everything from food to clothing to restaurant meals and to even offset higher costs. In many cases, companies register profit growth because of the price increases. Consumers, meanwhile, have become more cautious and even cut spending, much more than anticipated by economists.
Okay, I'm proud to be joined by our leadership team of Senators Durbin, Murray, and Stabenow. So we had a great lunch today, really a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of new ideas on focusing on lowering costs for working families. Whether it's child care or prescription drugs or semiconductor chips or filling up the gas pump, what's on the dining table, cost of food, we're coming up with solutions to address these issues. That's the big difference between Democrats and Republicans when it comes to lowering people's costs. We have real answers. They don't. They just attack. And why don't they have answers? Because much of the time it goes...
In 2025 will not be considered taxable income in terms of federal taxes. Now, lawmakers are back in Washington for the predetermined midterm election sprint. Preventing a government shutdown will be the top legislative item for all lawmakers. The political environment has shifted over the past few weeks. This is impacted by a batch of legislative wins for Democrats earlier in the summer and signs the inflation-laden economy is improving. Democrats are now more confident than ever that they can stem expected losses in President Biden's first midterm elections. They are hopeful they can retain a majority in the Senate, while preventing Republicans from gaining a broad majority in the House. Passing a short-term spending bill before a deadline of September 30th at midnight, when the government funding is set to expire, is a top concern for everybody in Congress. The bill will need the support of Republicans in the Senate, and the 60 votes need to pass. Democrats want to demonstrate to voters they can govern responsibly and not allow a damaging shutdown. In the Senate, Democrats will also keep confirming federal judges nominated by Biden, with government funding set to expire at the end of the month. Both chambers are expected to pass some kind of stopgap funding extension in the upcoming weeks to avert the shutdown, and stopgap funding bills are known as Capitol Hill as a continuing resolution. The Senate Appropriations Chair, Patrick Leahy, a Vermont Democrat, is also aiming for a continuing resolution to run until mid-December to allow lawmakers time just to finish the regular appropriation bills. Now, Hawaii Democratic Senator Brian Schatz summed up the to-do list for Senate Democrats when asked recently by CNN when the September work period will look like. He said continuing resolution and judges. Amid concerns that the higher prices will hurt consumer wallets, some state and federal lawmakers are looking at ways to ease that pain at the pump. Mike Thompson uses various public databases to calculate the cost of healthcare, housing, food, and transportation, and miscellaneous expenses for seniors. It represents a bare bones budget, adjusted for whether adults live alone or as part of a couple, and whether they rent or own homes or without a mortgage. Now, there are billions of dollars left over in stimulus funds. More and more governors have agreed to allocate this money towards the people that need the most, and that means stimulus checks. Beginning in October, California residents will receive one-time inflation relief checks of as much as $1,000. Whether you qualify for the middle-class tax refund and how much you could get depends on your income, filing status, and household size. The refund is expected to total around $9.5 billion as part of a larger $12 billion relief plan approved by lawmakers. In a statement, Newsom said California's budget passing Biden's American Jobs Plan and American Families Plan together, using budget reconciliation. There are considerable differences across party lines, with 86% of Democrats supporting the use of the reconciliation process, 59% of independents supporting it, and only 36% of Republicans supporting it. What are your thoughts on this, everybody? Should Democrats use the budget reconciliation process again? Or should they try to negotiate with Republicans? Tell me your thoughts on this in the comments below. Now folks, we do know this. 68% of those surveyed said they would be somewhat or much more likely to support a lawmaker who votes to spend $400 billion on long-term care for seniors and people with disabilities, even if it's passed on a partisan basis. The White House is trying to jump support for the $1.2 trillion bipartisan deal. 35,000 residents in this state sitting on an average of $924. It's totaling over $141 million. The state-by-state breakdown calculated by the agency shows that California residents have the second highest sum of possible refunds, with $141 million potentially owed to 145,000 people. Florida comes in third with a median projected refund of $893 for about 90,000 residents. And the IRS predicts that about 81,000 New Yorkers could be owed almost $87 million, while people living in Illinois could be sitting on about $57 million in unclaimed cash. The state with the lowest sum of unclaimed tax refunds is Vermont, where 3,100 people could be eligible for just over $3 million in refunds. The average amount of money that could be owed is slightly over the national median at $901, because according to the agency, students, part-time workers, and seniors often overlook. Older adults just worry that the payments that are currently receiving will be cut by a looming shortfall in the federal program. It's important to understand that old age survivors and disability insurance affects not just seniors but also workers who develop disabilities in families in which a spouse or parent dies. And because Social Security is funded through a payroll tax era, employers and employees each pay 6% of wages up to the taxable maximum of $160,000. The trustees of the Social Security and Medicare reported that more than money is coming out than coming in. And without intervention, this trust fund will only have continuing tax income to pay out 77%